I want to welcome you this morning as we explore really the core values of who we are and why we do what we do here at the Vineyard. There's nobody in this room, or there's nobody listening to this DVD or CD or on the internet that does not have their life governed by the values that they espouse. And it doesn't mean that everybody has sit down and has written out in a categorical way a value statement for your life. Many people have. But the fact of the matter is, everybody that's in this room, anyone listening, has in a way ordered their life by the values that they have esteemed and taken as their own. You know, there's a story told of a man who was cleaning out his attic, and he got telling his friend about it. And he said to his friend, yeah, he says, I threw away some stuff, and he said, I found this old Bible, and, it didn't make, it just looked old, and I just threw it away. It was a Guten something. His friend looked, and he said, you what? He said, I threw away this old Bible. It had like Guten on it or something, and his friend looked, he says, you're not talking about a Gutenberg Bible, are you? And he goes, yeah, I think that was it. He goes, dude, he says, those things sell for $3 million a pop. There was only a few of them ever in existence. It's the first copy of the Bible in the history. And he goes, he says, I wouldn't have gotten $2 for this one, because all through it there was some German notes written in it by some guy named Martin Luther. That wasn't worth anything. Now, for some of you that got no church background, that's a dumb illustration. But for some of you that know, the Gutenberg Bible is one of the original copies of the Bible, as far as being pressed out, run through a press, and it is worth a couple of $1 million. But the problem is the person that had it didn't understand the value of it, which goes with the proverbial understanding that we all know so well: value is in the eye of the beholder. There's things that you look at that I would have no value at. There's things I look at and have great value for. You would say, what is that? I had a friend that when I was going through college, that just underneath on the dorm where Jan and I were, just underneath there was a guy who set up a little taxidermy shop, and he was always bringing in roadkill so he could experiment and practice on. So at any given time, in the back of his pickup truck, there was dead raccoons, dead possums, just a bunch of dead stuff. So, you're going down the road, and you go, oh, avoid, there's a skunk there or something there. You just go out around it. He's going down the road. He would cruise back roads to find roadkill. That's all an issue of value being in the eye of the beholder. A couple friends of mine, growing up, their dad owned this huge plot of land. And he was a junk collector, dealt in metal and anything around. He could see the value in it, and he started collecting. I'm talking acres and acres and acres of stuff. One day, this guy took his two boys out. I remember both of these guys, friends of mine, telling me this story together. They said, yeah, our dad took us out for the big talk. We went walking out through the back 40 acres. It's just junk everywhere. And he's real solemn, and he's walking. He says, boys, it's taken me a lifetime to accumulate this. But boys, he got up to the top of the hill, so he had sort of a panoramic view out across his 40 acres of junk. And he goes, boys, someday all of this will be yours. The guys tell me we both looked at our dad and went, no. He saw it as a collective a piece of artwork worth all the money. If you rip the guts out of this machine, you can get the copper out. And that was his mindset. These guys were both businessmen. They just looked at it and said, when he's gone, we're going to have to clean this mess up. They talked their dad into selling the property before he passed away, and they took the cash. Again, value. What do you see and what somebody else sees? But you do have your values. Now, I'm going to use a statement like this through this series that I want to do. Statement that I came across in one of the writings of Bob Logan that I thought it was very succinct, so instead of rewriting my own, I just said, that's the one I like. Values are often unwritten assumptions that guide our actions. Values demonstrate our convictions and priorities. Values are confirmed by our actions, not just our words. Values are not a doctrinal statement. They are convictions that determine how our church operates. Values provide the foundation for formulating goals and setting the direction of the church's ministry. That's a very succinct statement. I think that's very accurate. But I also think that this same very thing can be said about anybody's life. Whatever you do with time, energy, and money actually tells us what you really believe and what you really value. Somebody can say, I value A, B, C, D, but I actually give my time, energy, money to A, B, C, D. What is the real value? What I say, what's written in the statement, or what I do? What really defines what I value? Values it's not something, we're not talking about sloganeering. Values are something that you have, in a sense, in the accumulation of growing up, in the accumulation of your own decisions, your own seeking, your own investigation, coming to a place in your life saying, this is really important to me. In our membership class here at the Vineyard, I always read our doctrinal statement. When we get to the part of the membership class, I just say, I'm going to read to you a theological statement. It's just what we believe the Bible teaches about these 10 things. And I read through it fairly succinct, fairly fast. I move right along. And afterwards, I say, are there any questions? There very seldom is, because it's a lengthy read. And I said, if you want to know every jot and tittle of this, I always give them a web page where we keep philosophical and theological statement of the Vineyard. It's several hundred references in the Scriptures. And I said, if you're really that set on discovering every bit of this theologically, here's where you can go study it. And then immediately I go right to what do we value? Because those two things have to go hand in hand. What you believe and what you value. They have to be harmonious. They have to be in concert with one another, because they're going to determine what you do and how you act. And oftentimes, I say, why is it that you can go to a few churches that believe the same thing? And this is a very important thing to get a hold of here, because I want you to understand this for the months to come, where I'm going with some of my teaching. Why can you have two churches that believe the same thing doctrinally, but absolutely feel totally different in the experience, the ethos, the very spirit of the place? How can it be so different? And I think we all know that that's true. Often we think that that's determined by the amount of people. I've often been heard, or I don't hear it so much now, but as our congregation was growing in years past, I used to hear, well, the church is so big, it seems more impersonal. I don't know everybody. And so I said, so you believe that the quantity of people determines the ethos of who's there? Yeah, because in a smaller church, everybody knows everybody, everybody's friendly, and that's really good. I said, honestly, that's never been my experience. And I always share an experience I had by going to a church in Florida, Ocala, Florida. This was back when my father was passing away. And I'd spent a few weeks with him. And on Sunday morning, I told my dad, hey, I'm going to the little church. It's right on the corner there. And you stay right here. Don't leave until, at least I get back. That was my hope. He wouldn't die during the church service. But I said, you wait right here. I'll be back in an hour or two, whatever. So I went to the church, and I was coming out of a Maine winter, so here I am in Ocala, Florida. Are you kidding? I got a tank top on, a pair of shorts, and a pair of sandals. But I'm not talking about like short shorts. Shorts. So I looked pretty good. So I went into the church, and the church had about 40 people in it. When I got in,